The House will come to order. Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for today is Senate File 1504. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File number 1504, number 3 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to health.
The member from Olmsted, Representative Pierson, to explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Senate File 1504 basically reinstates some task force and committees that handle various issues within our health departments that are all slated to expire on June 30th of this year. We're looking to extend one of those for 5 years, another for 10 years, and then an additional for not having a sunset on the maternal and child health advisory task force. So with that, I'd stand for questions on third reading.
No amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File number 1504.
Third reading. Discussion on Senate File 1504. Seeing no discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. There being 113 ayes and 18 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Clark, for what purpose do you rise?
Point of personal privilege.
State your point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I wanted to announce that we are being visited today by the consulate from Mexico, Alberto Fierro. And I just wanted you to welcome him and just tell you a little bit about some of what he's doing, bringing to us from his country. You may know that Mexico is our second highest trading partner. Second highest. That's up in the last year from third. I guess we had a lot of export to Mexico in the past year. What I really love about the Mexican consulate is, although it's located in St. Paul, under our current leader here, we've been able to, he makes this a mobile consulate so that the consulate goes around to numerous cities in Minnesota, including, for example, St. Cloud, Rochester, Austin, Marshall, Worthington, Moorhead, a few of those places, so that the people who need the services of the consulate have Mr. Fierro's opportunity, have an opportunity to meet with him. And just to remind us, every year more than 150,000 Minnesotans visit Mexico, and we have 180,000 Mexican Americans who live here in Minnesota, work here and live here. So What you may not know is that the governor is doing a trade mission in the first week in August with Mexico to strengthen that already strong relationship with our sister country to the south. So I just wanted to ask you to welcome our consulate, Mr. Alberto Fierro. Thank you.
The next bill on the calendar for today is House File 501. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 501, number 2 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to elections.
I recognize the member from Washington, Representative Fenton, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this legislation does two things. It allows National Guard members called to service by the state to use the same special procedures for voting as when they are called to service by the federal government. It also allows children of Minnesota citizens born abroad to vote in Minnesota in the federal-only ballot if their parents are eligible to vote in Minnesota. This bill has broad bipartisan support, and I encourage be open to questions.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 501.
Third reading. Discussion on House File 501. The member from Washington, Representative Detmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for bringing this bill forward to the House floor. I know I've had contacts with many veterans over the years that this would be an important thing for us to pass here in the House floor, and I support this bill, and please present your green vote. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. There being 131 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for today is House File 1257. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 1257, number 4 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to state government.
The member from Sherburne, Representative Zerwas, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is a technical bill that corrects a bill from last year for responsible contractors. It makes two main corrections as far as timing for submitting paperwork based on be able to submit for a bid versus after the bid is awarded. I think I have an amendment at the desk as well.
There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Zerwas moves to amend House File number 1257, the second engrossment, and the amendment is coded A6.
The member from Sherburne, Representative Zerwas, to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the A6 is a technical fix to the original existing statute. It was brought to me by the Department of Administration. All of the stakeholders are comfortable with the language.
Further discussion on the A6 amendment. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of adoption of the A6 amendment signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. There are no more amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 1257, as amended.
Third reading. We now have House File 1257 before the body as amended. The author, the member from Sherburne, Representative Zerwas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the responsible contractor bill makes a few brief changes to the law we passed last year. The main switch is the existing statute that we passed last year requires a contractor and to submit for all of its subcontracts and for itself documentation that says it complies with existing statutes and is considered a responsible contractor. That ends up being a very large burden of paperwork, and so instead of collecting all of that information for everybody bidding out the jobs, that requirement will now be after the bid is awarded, they'll have about a 10 to 12 day span to submit that information. All the key stakeholders, including the labor groups and the contracting association, is comfortable with this language and believes it'll be a big improvement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for a green vote.
The member from Carlton, Representative Sundin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a bill I carried last year, and it's already had some positive effects on contracting throughout the state. These changes that have been suggested by the Department of Administration are welcome, and they'll actually help to make this law a better law. So I urge a green vote from everyone. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. There being 131 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Report from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Pepin from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration, pursuant to Rules 1.21 and 3.33, designates the following bills to be placed on the calendar for the day for Friday, May 15, 2015, and establishes a pre-filing requirement for amendments offered to the following bills. Senate File numbers 1371, 455, 205, 253, and 495.
Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there's no objection, we'll take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail.
Bly moved that the rules of the House be so far suspended that House File number 2296 be recalled from the Committee on Agriculture Finance and be given its second and third readings and be placed upon its final passage.
The member from Rice, Representative Bly, to your motion.
Thank you, Speaker. And I think as we look at the calendar coming closer to an end here, and I hope to suspend the rules to move the avian flu bill that I've been trying to get through. And you know, this is an issue that has affected a number of legislators and in their districts and in their constituents in those districts. And I would hope that we would find it timely to move forward and move this bill along, have another path to having it passed. We don't know how the session is going to end up. And I would ask for a roll call on this motion.
A roll call has been requested. Seeing slightly more than 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Bly? You done?
Yes. I would like to suspend the rules, as I said, to move the House File 2296 as a standalone bill to be passed and moved on to the Senate and move forward. I know there was conversation, yes, the last time I tried this about the Senate delaying things, but we don't know which bill will be delayed by the Senate or whomever, and I think it makes a lot of sense to move this bill forward, to have another path, and that's what I'd like to see happen.
The member from Cottonwood, Representative Hamilton.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and once again, Representative Bly, thank you for bringing this very important issue in front of us. It gives me another opportunity to thank all the wonderful, wonderful people working on this. We are taking this very, very seriously. I want to thank the governor, Governor Mark Dayton, for taking a lead on this. I want to thank the Lieutenant Governor, Tina Smith. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you and the Majority Leader as well, and Chair Knobloch. Multiple times we came before the Ways and Means Committee to have the targets increased. So thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for your leader on avian influenza. And Majority Leader, you guys have been taking this very, very seriously. The entire ag community, we are grateful. Thank you so much. I want to thank the Deputy Chief of Staff, Ms. Hardy. You've done a phenomenal job. Thank you for organizing this and keeping all of us focused on this issue. You are absolutely wonderful. I want to thank Commissioner Frederickson with the Department of Ag. He's taken a leadership role in this. Commissioner Franz, you know, the Department of Health, I'm going to reiterate one more time. We placed a phone call, and within 1 hour, we had 2 members from the Department of Health to come into the office that I'm so honorable to, or so humbled to occupy, that sit down and visit with us on this. I want to thank Dr. Hartman with the Board of Animal Health. You've been doing a fantastic job coordinating all this. The University of Minnesota, Dr. Brian Boer, Dr. Trevor Ames, and also Bev Durgan. I mean, everybody, Dr. Collins, who has been working on this. Mr. Santo Cruz, the Ag Liaison, has done a great job working with all of the members from the Ag Committee and others. The Minnesota Poultry Testing Laboratory, Mr. Steve Olson, all the farmers out there that have been weighing in on this. We have the Dr. Cardona as well, the expert on avian influenza. The National Guard is working on this. The USDA, and our food supply is safe. Mr. Speaker, I do have, if I can have a Democrat yield for a question, could I ask, Representative Earhart, would he yield for a question, please?
He will yield. Representative Hamilton.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. A member from the other side of the aisle had some accusations about avian influenza and possible health concern. Representative Earhart, I asked on the House floor for the Department of Health to contact you and to either confirm or deny your allegations as it pertains to avian influenza. Could you please share with the body how that turned out?
Representative Earhart. Representative Hamilton.
So, Mr. Speaker, would he yield for that question?
Apparently he will not.
All right. Well, thank you. So that explains a lot, because once again, it is safe. And it's a little disappointing as far as the politics that are being played around this. This is in the agriculture bill. We've been working very, very closely with both sides of the aisle on this, Mr. Speaker, very closely. We've brought all the departments together. Again, through your leadership, through the majority leader's leadership, and others supporting the additional funding that goes into the agriculture bill, we are all working on a bipartisan basis to get this accomplished. Members, please vote no against this. Thank you.
The member from Rice, Representative Bly.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Representative Hamilton, for making a good case for why this bill should go forward. I wasn't going to bring up playing politics at all, but I think it's important that we do avoid playing politics with this important money that needs to get to where it needs to go. Time is running out. I'm very worried. I don't know if your conference committee has met at all. I don't know if it's going to meet before we need to get things done here. I just think that this is so critical that we need to make sure it has another path. You know, Representative Miller, Representative Hamilton, yourself, Representative Baker, Representative Backer, Representative Swidzinski, Representative Shoemaker, Representative Vogel, Representative Cornish, Representative Green, Representative Nornis, Representative Franson, Representative Paul Anderson, Representative Mark Anderson, Representative Torkelson, Representative Fabian, Representative O'Driscoll, Representative Teese, Representative Petersburg, Daniels, and Bennett, and Representative Gunther have all had instances of this in their own district. And I think to delay this further, to not have a path going forward where outside of the political games that may be played, this can move forward and it can pass and the money can get to where it needs to go. I am very worried that things will fall apart and it won't move forward. So that's why I keep bringing this up and why I think it's so important. I urge a green vote. I think this is very urgent. I think we need to get this done. Thank you.
The member from Cottonwood, Representative Hamilton.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Bly, Mr. Speaker, would Representative Bly yield for the question, please? Representative Bly yield for a question, please, Mr. Speaker.
He will yield. Representative Hamilton.
Representative Bly, I know the Republicans in the Minnesota House of Representatives, we are absolutely committed to getting done on time. All the bills, not just the agriculture bill, but all the bills. We are absolutely committed. With your last comment, do you have information that we do not have? Why would you be saying you're concerned about this thing falling apart? Are you or are you not committed, like we are, in order to get all these passed in a timely basis?
Representative Bly.
I have no information. All I can do is say what I'm observing. Your conference committee has not met. We don't know what's going to happen. And I say I'm concerned. It looks like this is an unusual turn of events at the end of our legislative session. Freshmen here don't know this, but we don't usually, from my understanding, we don't usually wait not hearing a single conference committee report on a Wednesday before sine die. I really cannot imagine what's going to happen. Are you going to have all of your conference committee bills in one bill and attempt to pass that? I really don't see an end game here. And I don't have any information. I'm just going by what I see happening or not happening. I don't know what's going to happen. But I think this is a critical measure and it must be passed before we end the session. I really think it's critical. And that's my reason for pushing it. You may see it otherwise. And regardless of how committed you are to seeing this move forward, regardless to seeing how committed you are to having an end to the session, I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm not sure that you do either. So that's why I keep bringing it forward.
Representative Hamilton.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Bly, not only am I observing, but I am committed and I'm working hard to make sure that we do get these bills passed in a timely fashion. Mr. Speaker, would Representative Bly yield for another question?
He will yield. Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Bly, you talk about this being a very serious issue, in which it is. I fully understand and I support that statement. Representative Bly, do you also agree that health care, education, transportation, and all those other issues are equally as important?
Representative Bly.
Of course, I agree they're important. But I don't know, again, if those issues are not resolved by sine die, I'm sure the governor will call us back and resolve those issues. I think there is a timeliness to this particular financial, the import of this bill, and I think it should move forward. I don't think it should just be put off until we perhaps come back and try to resolve these other issues. Of course they're important, but I see this as important. And you thank the governor for his taking this seriously. The governor asked for a standalone bill. You told me when our conference committee met that you had two vehicles, one that would be standalone and one would be your omnibus bill. I haven't seen the other vehicle come forward. That's why I keep standing up and saying we need to move this standalone bill forward. That's why I'm doing this.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Hamilton.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I don't know, to the general public, I hope you're listening to what's going on. You have the Republicans here that are stating we are doing absolutely everything that we possibly can in order to get these bills passed, in particular the agriculture bill and the others. And here now you have motions being made trying to take bits and pieces to send them to the governor for fear of the unknown. Well, I'll tell you what, it's not an unknown. I'm absolutely committed to get this done. We have this language in our agriculture finance bill. We're continuing working with the other side, and I'm ready to respond to any comments that may come from your area as well. So we are absolutely committed. Members, please vote. Please vote against this motion.
Representative Marquardt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members, and I am a little disappointed to hear Democrats and Republicans thrown around during this discussion. Representative Hamilton and Chair Anderson, about 3 or 4 Fridays ago, you had a hearing that dealt just with avian flu. And you had the Department of Animal Health, Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, University of Minnesota there that testified. But by far the most emotional and important testimony that day came from the turkey producers. And I remember hearing from them, and all the members who were at that meeting heard from them. And it wasn't just the loss of the turkeys, you know, it's been over 5 million birds depopulated, and the hit to their business, but it was the mental anguish and the uncertainty that they were going through. We heard testimony where they would literally, if they had not yet been hit by the avian flu, they were going out quickly to see, and they were just relieved if they didn't have any signs of avian flu. So, members, they're looking for certainty here in this situation, and where we know these dollars are going is to go to these important departments that Representative Hamilton mentioned and Representative Bly has mentioned to help contain and control. So the avian flu, the spread. So the timing of this is extremely urgent. Extremely urgent. And all of these, Governor Dayton and everyone has done a fantastic job, and our thanks go out to them. But they need more than thanks. They need resources to make sure, certain resources to make sure they can stop the spread, control, do what they can. Now, we know the warmer weather is going to help, because at a certain temperature, it tends to stop this. But members, let's separate this from everything else. We can do that today. We can separate this avian flu funding to provide certainty for our producers. And I have one chicken producer who was hit. In fact, I think he was the first one hit with avian flu. They had to depopulate 300,000 birds. And a farm very close to them, and I've talked to them 3 times now, it has not spread. But every day they're doing tracheal swabs and sending them in for testing to make sure the avian flu is not spread. These are the resources that we need to get out there, in my mind, as soon as possible. So everyone is working very hard on this. All I'm asking members is to declare an urgency so we can separate this funding from everything else that's happening here, to provide our producers with certainty that that funding is going to be there. So members, please put the politics aside. Let's vote for a certain thing for our producers out there. Make sure we can help contain and prevent the spread of avian flu as best as we can, members.
Representative Purcell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to rise in support of the Bly suspension rules. And I interested if anybody has any information I don't have, Representative Hamilton or anybody else. You know, a few weeks ago, maybe a month, 6 weeks ago now, everybody was convinced that avian flu was being spread by wild waterfowl. There have been many, many tests, tens, hundreds, maybe 1,000 or more tests of wild waterfowl droppings. Not a one. Not a one. So I think we're pointing somewhere else here. What is going on? We need to have this move forward so we can figure this thing out. And the sooner the better. Why, you know, I don't know why we're waiting around on this, Representative Hamilton. I'll just say that. But what I've seen, what I know is happening, from my viewpoint as a science guy, something else going on, and we better figure it out, whether it's the feed or whatever. So I support the Bly suspension of the rules.
The member from Rice, Representative Bly.
Thank you. You know, I don't see the logic behind not having this bill advance in as many places as we can. I mean, I think it needs to go forward. I don't see why having only one path for it will get the job done. We don't know what's going to happen. I think the safest measure is to make sure that we have several paths to getting this done. And I see no problem with having that happen. I don't see a need to have it in the omnibus bill. It's there, but it doesn't have to be the only path to getting this job done. And I just think this is important that we have as many paths going forward as we can to make sure that we get this funding done and to where it needs to go. Thank you.
The member from Washington, Representative Schoen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I just rise to support the Bly motion. And I just want to point out that this is not simply just an issue that affects greater Minnesota. I have Newport Cold Storage in my district, and this is a major portion of their business is storing meat. And when Dakota Premium laid off 300+ workers last year, we really had a big suffering of job loss temporarily and just business loss over there, and that was devastating just for that alone. And you know what I got to tell you is that this isn't about what's 100 miles from the Capitol. This is very, very detrimental to what's 10 miles away and the entire state. We have to get this back on track, and we have to make sure that everybody understands that we're all committed to this together, and I know, Representative Hamilton, you are committed to it, but I think we can do it today. Thank you.
The member from Cottonwood, Representative Hamilton.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And one of the issues that were brought up, they're asking why. What is the concern? Why the opposition? The last time that Representative Bly declared an urgency, it took the Senate 2 weeks to get back to us, and it came back as a tax bill. That's why I'm speaking against this. We have it covered in the agriculture finance bill. We have Democrats and Republicans that are supporting this, that are working very, very hard on this, and we're working with all the agencies. This is a good faith effort. I am committed, as I know Representative Poppy, the leader in the Minority Caucus, is very, very committed on this as well. And we're going to continue working hard, and we will get this signed into law. I'm absolutely committed that we're going to get this signed into law in the appropriate time. And again, if you know something that I don't, Representative Bly, share it with the entire body, because I want to hear it. But we are absolutely committed to being done on time. So if you're privy to information that we are not, please share it so that we can address it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Bly.
Thank you, Speaker. Representative Hamilton, as I said before, I'm not privy to any information. I just am observing what I see. You mentioned that it took 2 weeks to get the conference committee going and that it came back as a tax bill. That's all the more reason, I think, to have more than one path. We don't know what's going to happen with your omnibus bill. We don't know what's going to happen with the final decision. You may be committed to it. You may feel as though you're so committed that you're going to be able to make this happen all on your own. I don't know that. I don't know what's going to happen. We can't predict right now. That's why I think having another measure, moving it forward, makes sense. I don't understand why you think it's a bad idea to have more than one path for this bill, for this important finance bill. And it just astounds me that you would resist something that's so important, something that's important to your members and to all of Minnesota. I really just don't see why you hold on to thinking that it has to have this only single path in your omnibus bill, and that's the reason that you resist suspension of the rules and having another path for this bill to go forward. I really don't understand.
The member from Pope, Representative Anderson.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. We have a pretty good history around this place of getting an ag bill passed. Even when we had a shutdown, a couple years ago, the one bill that got passed was the ag bill. I have every confidence in the world in Chair Hamilton that we're going to get the job done, get the ag bill passed, get the funding where it needs to go, and address the situation. And one other comment, a couple things been mentioned about how this is spreading, what's going on. As I understand, this money is mainly destined for the agencies, and again, in the ag finance bill is additional money for research, which is what we really need to find out what's happening with this situation. So again, all the confidence that the ag finance bill is going to be passed and signed, put into law, and I support Chair Hamilton.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the motion. The clerk will close the roll. There being 59 ayes and 72 nays, the motion does not prevail. Announcements. The member from Dakota, Representative Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the chair of the Rules Committee yield for a question, please? Representative Pepin.
She will yield. Representative Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Pepin, I saw that the Friday calendar for the day came out. It's got like the housekeeping bill for the Department of Labor. There's a campaign finance bill that I assume benefits us in some fashion. But the firefighters bill is not on the calendar. I talked briefly with Representative Howe. It sounds like that may have just been a mechanical issue. So this isn't, I'm not, throwing a question at you as any sort of indictment as much as it is it, can I be reasonably assured that that bill that saves firefighters' lives passed the Senate 59-2, passed Chairman Hoppy's committee without any opposition. I expected to see it on Friday's calendar. Is it reasonable to expect that we'll see it on Saturday?
The member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Atkins. Well, somebody had asked me about that in Rules Committee today and said that there was some agreement, and I hadn't heard. I know that the various parties had been working on it, and I got a chance to talk with Representative Howe just really briefly, and I haven't had a chance to review. I do have a copy of it here, but I haven't had a chance to review it yet. So let's continue talks on that. I'd like to hear what the agreement was and to make sure that the parties have signed off on it.
Representative Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Pepin, this isn't because I doubt what you say. It's just because it's hard for me. Your microphone doesn't always pick up where I'm hearing it over here. What I understood you to say is that you wanted to confirm the agreement. There's folks on both sides of this issue. There's firefighters on one side. There's the American Chemical or Chemistry Council or something on the other side. And my understanding from Chairman Hoppy's committee the other day is that in fact there's an agreement. It sounded to me like you wanted to confirm that agreement over those I think it's four chemicals, Representative Howe, that would be banned as of a certain date, and 6 other chemicals that would be studied. If that's what I understood you to say, that sounds like it's going to be set for, and I guess I have one more question if you'll yield.
She will yield. Representative Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Pepin. Are we coming in on Saturday then? This is usually what Thiessen has down there, but there will be a Saturday calendar, and this, assuming there's an agreement on the firefighter bill, this it sounds like it'll be on for Saturday then. Is that right?
The member from Hennepin, Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Atkins. I'm sorry about the microphone issue if it doesn't pick up. We'll continue to work with Representative Howe on it, and yes, the last week of session, I would assume that we're going to have session on Saturday and much of the weekend.
Representative Atkins.
Mr. Speaker and Madam Chair, Majority Leader Pepin, thank you very much for wrecking my weekend, but I'm here for... No, I anticipated, I think we all did, that we would be here on Saturday, and certainly for firefighter safety and the safety of children and homes that are caught on fire, I think we're all willing to do that. So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Representative Pepin.
Announcements. The member from Hennepin, Representative Kahn.
Yes. Mr. Speaker and members, we're going to have a very special event tomorrow morning at 10, right after we finish signing in, I guess. And that is, we have a resolution honoring Supreme Court Justice Alan Page, who is due to retire in August, having reached the mandatory retirement day. So I hope as many members, and Justice Page will be here, along with, I think, many of the other members of the Supreme Court. So I hope that we'll have a good attendance to welcome and honor Justice Page.
Further announcements. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just wanted to follow up on a couple of bills. Will Representative McNamara yield for a question? Oh, he's not here. Sorry, Representative McNamara.
He will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Is my understanding correct that the Ag Bill and the Environment Bill are being negotiated as a single omnibus bill?
Representative McNamara.
Yes.
Representative Thiessen.
And if he would yield for one more question.
He will yield. Representative Thiessen.
And when is the last time that conference committee met?
Representative McNamara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Leader Thiessen, if you ask when did we meet, we have not met yet.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Will Representative Torkelson yield?
He will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. I think, Representative Torkelson, you have the LCCMR bill. Is that correct?
Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I am the chief author of the LCCMR bill.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. I was wondering if you could just, that hasn't been scheduled in rules either for being taken up on the floor, and I was just wondering what the plan was for moving ahead on the LCCMR bill this year.
Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Thiessen, I am not aware of the current plan.
Representative Thiessen.
Mr. Speaker, will he yield again?
He will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. I thought you said you were the chief author of the bill.
Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Thiessen, yes, I am the chief author. The bill has passed off the Senate floor, has arrived here in the House. Senate language has been substituted for the House language, and the bill is, I think, awaiting its third reading.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I guess Representative Torkelson, just if he yield once again.
He will yield. Representative Thiessen.
So what is the plan for moving that bill, or is there no plan?
Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Thiessen, I am not aware of what the exact plan is at this point in time.
Representative Thiessen.
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if he, I guess, will continue yielding in this time as in his capacity as the bonding chair. Thank you. Put on your bonding cap. That's very good. Is there any discussion that you're having about moving forward? I know that you had talked to some of our members at one point and said you had a bonding bill in your breast pocket of your suit coat. We haven't seen it yet, but I'm wondering if you have any plans or there's been further discussions on a bonding bill this year.
Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've just received word that, if I'm understanding correctly, to backtrack just a moment, Representative Thiessen, that LCCMR will be coming to the floor on Saturday. So we have hot news there, Representative Thiessen. As far as the bonding bill goes, if you know your history of this place, you know bonding bills sometimes take an unusual path to get to proceed. At this point in time, there is no target for a bonding bill, so I have no bill. Thank you.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Will Representative Miller yield for a question? Or Baker? Either one.
Representative Baker will yield.
Thank you. I just saw in the introductions today, Representative Baker, that you introduced a bill for capital investment related to highway rail grade separation project in Wilmer, along with Representative Miller. Are you familiar that a bonding bill is going to be moving that's going to be including that language this year? I know that's important for your community.
Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Again, I'm preparing my bills to tee up for the next available bonding bill, whether that's this year or next year. I'm just making sure that my district is protected by the assets and the infrastructure improvements that we need, so I'm getting them ready for the next bonding bill, whenever that will be. Thank you.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Will Representative Baker yield for another question?
He will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Representative Baker, wouldn't it be better for it to move sooner rather than later? And I guess there's two questions. He can answer them at once. The second thing is, and wouldn't it be great to get Representative Marquardt and Hornstein's oil train safety bill, which actually helps move in the direction you're talking about in your bill as well. I've seen you haven't supported that yet. So do those two questions, I guess.
Representative Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I think that leadership and the budgets that we're working with will have to determine if this is the right time for that bonding. My bills are teed up, ready to go. I think it'll be done as soon as it's needed and as soon as it's appropriate, and I'll have to stand as a freshman to say I trust leadership will make those right kind of decisions. Thank you.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Well, and I appreciate that, Representative Baker, for the safety of, your community, as you mentioned, and the needs of your community. You're the representative from that area, and I would think you'd be up working every day to get that oil train safety language passed and to get a bonding bill going so that you can actually start addressing those issues in your community. And I'm sure you're doing that with your leadership as we speak. I'm sure you're in their office every day pounding on the table, demanding that you get that bonding bill done so you can protect your community. Will the majority leader yield?
She will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. I was thinking about our conversation this morning, Madam Majority Leader, and I know that the answers you gave in terms of concessions that were made are under this cone of silence at this point. But the statements that were made by Speaker Doubt about concessions that were made before the cone of silence went into effect. So presumably there were actually concessions made prior to some agreement that you wouldn't talk about the furtherance of the negotiations. So can you tell me what concessions were made by the Republicans before the cone of silence negotiations went into effect?
Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Thiessen. Well, as I've mentioned earlier today and yesterday and the day before, we haven't released any of the decisions that have been discussed or made.
Representative Thiessen.
So it wasn't accurate, in fact, that the Republicans were making concessions. It wasn't accurate, in fact, that they weren't taking any steps to move toward the Democrats, notwithstanding what the Speaker and you were telling the press. I guess that's how I will understand that, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any further announcements? Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the Transportation Conference Committee will be meeting 15 minutes after we recess here. And we have been doing wonderful work, and we're moving forward. By the way, Mr. Speaker, all we're waiting for is for everyone to agree that transportation absolutely was a priority this session, and we're looking forward to the agreement that most people have said that the gas tax is off the table, and we would like to finish up the transportation bill. Thank you.
The member from Fillmore, Representative Davids.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. The Don't Stop Believin' tax bill will meet in its usual room here in the Capitol at 2:45 p.m.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I did, when Representative Kelly got up, it reminded me I had a question for him, so if he would yield.
I think he would yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just wondering, Representative Kelly, what you thought of the Speaker's comments that using general fund to pay for transportation is not a solution to addressing the transportation problems that we have in the state of Minnesota.
Representative Kelly.
Mr. Speaker and Leader Thiessen, at this point in time, I guess we've certainly vetted our transportation bill, and we've got an agreement from the majority of people in Minnesota that says that our funding package, now that we have a $2 billion surplus, and just add another $260 million more last month, that they've agreed that we have prioritized it. We have actually said that in that situation, funding transportation, because it is a priority, is not part of the general fund. It's actually the dedicated sources that we've talked about, and we've certainly got a vote of confidence from the state, and we appreciate that.
Any further announcements? Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 10 a.m. Thursday, May 14th, 2015.
Representative Pepin moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 10 o'clock a.m. Thursday, May 14th, 2015. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails. Representative Pepin.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Pepin moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion prevails, and the House stands adjourned until 10 o'clock a.m. Thursday, May 14th, 2015.